More than $300 million.
$315 million.
$315 million.
Mediated talks between Canada Post and the union representing its workers have been suspended.
Yeah.
I kind of thought with Canada Post being on strike and with less parcel delivery, junk mail, and letter mail, that Canada Post was a hemorrhaging business. But I spoke with one Vancouver postal worker who says, just like with other crown corporations, that's not always the case. They make money. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for clicking on this video. We're in December. It's December 5th as I'm taping this video today. And you might have heard that Canada Post is in a strike. And they've been on strike for about 3 weeks now. The union that represents Canada Posties is Cup W, and they represent about 55,000 posties. And the latest that I've heard is they've sent a counter proposal to a mediator to say they're ready to get back to federal negotiations and federal mediation because talks were on hold. It was put on a pause, but they're ready to get back and get going. So we can talk about a lot of things. One thing I wanted to just look up before we got started, I mean, Canada Post is a big part of every Canadian's life, for goodness sake. It's 157 years old. Canada Post was created 16 years before Confederation in the year 1851, which is something. It's just like, you know, one of those things that's a part of our life. So when they go on strike, how does it affect you? How does it affect regular people and people all across Canada? My focus is on BC because I live in BC. Another thing that I like to do is because I come from the media, I don't always want to just get one side, one spin, one story. I always know that there's another side to the story. So I like to talk to regular people. So standing by, I've got a guest. He's a real postal worker. His name is Jamie Stroud. Hi, Jamie.
Hi, Anita. How are you?
I'm
Thank you
good.
for having me on.
Thank you for joining me. You are a postal worker. You've been a postal worker, your wife told me, for 26 years.
That is correct. I am close to retirement, which is why this strike really strikes a chord in my heart.
Okay. I want to ask you, okay, let's maybe walk down memory lane for just a couple of minutes. Because you've been a postal worker for 26 years, can you maybe describe to me, because a little bit about how it was when you started? What was it like, and what have you seen as the years go on? Before we get into all the strike stuff, just walk us down memory lane.
Well, what I can remember about being at the post office in the beginning was it was very much, and it sounds very weird to say now, but a team effort. We really were hand in hand with management. We really were talking about growing the company and making it right. I mean, it's always been growing on the backs of the postal workers, the people that actually get out there and meet the people in the neighborhood and deliver all the mail. So it's always been on the backs of us, and the millions of dollars that Canada Post always made was always because of the revenue generated from stamps and parcels and the letter carriers working so hard. So we always felt that we were always together. And then a couple strikes in, started to feel a little funny. There seems to be the evidence is there that it's a micromanaged, mismanaged sort of corporation, you know, in the sense that it's literally something like 3 or 4 managers to every 1 employee. It's way out of whack when it comes to the upper echelon of the post office, you know, let alone the executives that make their hundreds of thousands of dollars of bonuses and stuff like that. But again, in the beginning, it seemed great. Now, honestly, there's a toxicity in the work environment that we all work in. Not only is there an element of new employees coming in at a lower wage, making a less contribution to the pension, and some of the actual, you know, way of the post office works. So some of that, the person on the floor is making less than me. Why would they work as hard as me? There's some of that division amongst on the floor just because they've created that work environment.
I see.
Off the top of my head, right?
That's something. But I mean, back when you started, it was kind of maybe the only game in town, and right. And then now you've seen, there's other private delivery services and way more courier services. So how has that affected you guys?
Well, it hasn't affected us as much as you would think, because Canada Post delivers Amazon parcels. They deliver every parcel that comes through everywhere from all over the world, packets from China and all the rest of it. So the number one competitor in Canada, which most people don't believe or even understand, is Purolator Courier. Canada Post owns Purolator. So so right now, for example, Purolator is delivering parcels from Canada Post. And Canada Post is just sort of shifting it around. We don't picket the Purolator because they are Teamsters, and we're not allowed to picket that situation. So right now, management is sort of circumventing this picket line, and undermining the confidence of our picket line by using their secondary source, which is Purolator Courier. I think Purolator is looking at like $5 billion profit in the last 4 or 5 years, as opposed to Canada Post talking about numbers like we've lost $750 million this year. Well, that's insane. That's insane. The post office convinced all of us that that's what they were going to do 5 years ago. Their sustainability model suggested $5 billion in 4 years was to be spent on new electric vehicles, new plants across the country, all kinds of stuff like that. And now they're going ahead when it's strike time, talking about, well, we lost $750 million this year. Well, I don't know. Investing in your company should never be considered a loss. So we all knew that they were going to spend $700 and $800 million a year creating these different things to keep us, secure our position in delivering the parcels, right? That's what it was all about.
Okay, you know what? Maybe I'm ignorant, but I didn't know that you guys worked with Purolator, or you could deliver Amazon.
Well, Canada Post delivers Amazon full blast, right? Like we deliver as many or more parcels than Amazon does. I mean, we have $1 million days or $1 million postal parcel days all the time go on on the board on the ticker at the plant, right?
Okay, I didn't really know that. That's interesting to me, right? I always learn something, but
there's a lot of misconceptions out there about the post office.
Yes,
clear up,
and it's something that you also touched on, because whenever I watch media reports, because this, I always watch them with skepticism, of course, coming from where I come from, but they always sort of say, "Oh, Canada Post is hemorrhaging money," because the business model is not great, because of all the competition. In your opinion, is Canada Post losing money, hemorrhaging money?
No, not at all. We make tens of millions of dollars a year. The post office has always been an economically independent thing. It's owned by the government, but not subsidized or financed by the government. That's why there's just not you're losing millions of dollars, let's have a buyout like they did with Air Canada or someone like that. That's not the case. Canada Post makes millions of dollars every year on our own. And so every time the post office makes money in the end of the year, that goes into the government coffers. It doesn't go back into let's raise our wages for the post office. It goes into the infrastructure because it's one of those kind of companies. So they're always taking the profits and spending them oftentimes recklessly on bonuses and things like that. How can a company go right on the news right now and tell you that they're losing $750 million this year, but every CEO got hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of bonuses? A normal CEO would be fired if their business model lost $800 million in the first year. So they're skewing the numbers in the media. They have the power to use the media to their advantage, like we all know. And so the layman thinks that the post office is run by the government. They think that our wages are paid by the government when we're not. Canada Post is financially doing fine. There's going to be years where we dip and all that, like any business. But the overall situation is that we have entrenched ourselves, secured ourselves in that parcel delivery system with the new plants, with the new systems and models in place. So, for example, 20 years ago, my truck was full of 3/4 full of mail and 1/4 full of parcels. Now it's 3/4 parcels with a little bit of mail, sort of a thing.
Right. And that's what I heard, that parcel is a big moneymaker for your guys.
That's the future. And they knew that. And that's why we bought onto this 5-year sustainability program where we're going to spend a whole bunch of money. But the problem is that now we're being forced into a strike position because, again, and I can go down that path about how we've gotten to this point. The bottom line is management realizes that every strike we've had has been a government intervening, legislating us back to work, and putting us in binding arbitration. And binding arbitration is always going to be concessions on our part that we don't want. Let alone the fact that, we're looking for I think the quote is 4% over the last, I think it's 21% for 4 years is what we're looking at. But when you look at the growth of things, like for example, $21.83 was the starting wage. I have it here in 2008. Now it's $22.68. That's 4% in 16 years. But the living wage, for example, in 2008 was $16.74. It's now gone up to $27.05. That ends up being 62% increase. So So we're looking for
Wait a minute,
20%.
did you just say the starting wage is in the 20s? Is 20,
Absolutely.
low 20s, low 20s.
Full-time wage starting is $21.83. That was in 2008. Now it's $22.68. That's for a full-timer.
Oh
And
my
someone
gosh.
it's low, and people. That's one of the reasons.
You know,
Every time there
people
was
have the
concessions-
perception that it's not that low because it's union. And I've
No.
been in a union, we make high wages, but I was in the union for a long time, right?
I can remember when I first started, we were on par with the bus drivers, if you want to just
Right.
use something like that. And so every time that TransLink or someone wanted to invest in money and move something around, every contact they had, they just kept upping the wages to keep their employees happy and helping build a beautiful company. We don't do that at Canada Post. Any profit that goes into Canada Post goes into the government coffers, and they allocate and do what they want with that money. So our wages are way low compared to anything else.
Right. I was doing some research, and I saw it was something from the National Post or whatever, and they were saying as a strike by Canada Post workers nears its third week, a new poll by Angus Reid finds that Canadians are split in their sympathies between the Crown Corporation and its striking employees. So they're trying to cultivate low sympathy for the workers. Like, that's what the media is trying to do, and they're trying to say that it's not a big deal. People are not really that affected, and I thought, no, you must be affected if you work in a small town.
That's right.
What do you think about like the interior of BC and the smaller towns up in the north? Do they not need? I mean, what do you think about that?
Well, everyone is impacted, not only the regular public, but us as well. I mean, there's 55,000 of us. We're all family members. I'm not getting paid for the 3 weeks we're on strike. We get $50 a day if we go on the picket line, and that's all taxes plus our deductions. So, you know what I mean? What am I, $25 a day I might be making. The people that are standing on the line aren't doing it for money. We're doing it so that we don't have to go to binding arbitration. The best thing I can tell you right now is Labor Minister Steve McKinnon, that he's gone ahead and said something. You know, he looked at both of the negotiation situations when they split apart, and he's like, both of those parties are so far apart. But he has pledged not to be involved in a government wise. He's literally hardlining, saying you guys need to get together to sort this out. And that's honestly, that's never happened before. So I really am feeling positive about some of that. Canada Post panicked when that came down. When the word came down that was going to happen, they started doing something they have never done before, laying off full-time striking workers. That has never happened before. I believe, I mean, I'm just Joe Postie, but I believe that's illegal to even do that. But again, Canada Post rolls that way. Canada Post as a corporation rolls right over whatever their plan is, whatever their agenda is, they go ahead and do it. They're one of those people, well, if you don't like it, go ahead and grieve it, and we'll discuss it in 2 years at the grievance meeting. Whereas, but right now, do it. Right now, do it. We have a program going across the country called SSD, which is separate, sort, and delivery. It's absolutely not working. It keeps the posties out way into the dark at night. It's fraught with so many problems. They don't care. They are absolutely pushing it across the country. And that's one of the big things that's really gotten everyone upset as a worker. This model doesn't work. There is no family work relationship when you're working outside all day. You're missing dinner. You're missing everything with your family. It's not the way the model was working before.
Right. Okay. You know what? You're really making me think that, like my union does not support me. They don't care about me. They're just like, oh yeah, file your stupid grievance and we'll talk to you when we talk to you, kind of like that. And it's almost sort of slightly tyrannical, some of these crown corporations. But we talked about like postal workers, how hard they work in small towns. And I just have this clip I want to show from some people up in Kelowna. Just about what it's like for them. Here we go.
We have the biggest landmass and the smallest population, so there's people everywhere that depend on Canada Post.
Canadian postal workers from around the north and central Okanagan gathered in Vernon on Tuesday as the strike entered its third week.
Canada Post apparently put forward what they call a framework for negotiations. It doesn't sound like they've moved on a whole lot of stuff.
We're not just workers, we're the backbone and face of this company.
You're out in the dark, you're in all the elements. We go out no matter what. There's a blizzard, the city's shut down, your postal worker is still walking around.
There's a lot of construction going on in my particular route, and I felt unsafe. I was pretty much told that I don't have a choice and that I have to go into that area.
Over the past 2 weeks, the Canadian Federation of Independent Business says that small businesses around the country have lost a combined $765 million due to the strike.
It really is a a wide scale financial challenge for small businesses at this point. There's not many that are slipping through this unscathed.
Boston also says that many Canadians are now starting to shift towards using larger carriers.
Why don't I just buy it right from Amazon? It'll be delivered to my door. And then you kind of miss that middleman, so to speak, meaning that small businesses are chopped out of that equation entirely.
See, again, she brought up Amazon, which is
Well, people
not
don't
totally
understand
accurate.
Amazon is a giant monster, and they, of course, have their delivery trucks that everybody sees making deliveries all the time. But as a driver at the post office working out of the plant in Vancouver, I have probably two full steel mono cages of pure later parcels that are going to the stations to be delivered. So we also are paid to do the Amazon parcels as well. They have their own system, but we definitely bring up the slack and then some. So.
Gosh. Yeah, it's just something I just don't think people know about it. Like if the media doesn't tell you about it, people don't know about it, right?
No, of course not. Of course not.
So now we're 3 weeks. You do have Santa behind you, right? And sorry, we're Christmas is coming, right? And then you know how Canada Post does the Santa letter program, right? Well, what is going to happen to all the Santa letters? Do you know anything about that?
I don't officially technically know. I was hoping to get an answer on that from one of my friends when I called today, but they didn't get back to me. But technically, Santa's letters are being returned full blast. And so there's a whole different department that does that.
Oh, okay. Oh, you know what? Sorry.
People were delivering. I saw a clip today where some elementary schools showed up at the picket line with a bag of their letters for Santa. You know what I mean? So they are collecting those letters. And like I said, I believe there was talk or a statement. I remember seeing something about a specific date, like try to get your letters to Canada Post on the 6th or something.
I got lost in my notes here, but it says the Postal Service said in a statement while the initial deadline to mail a letter to Santa with that postal code, the HO 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 ho, that deadline was originally December 6th, but now they have removed that deadline from its website. But it does mean that maybe little Timmy or your little kids might get the letter not on Christmas. It's not going to come before Christmas, right?
Well, I can't say for sure. I don't know, but we do make there is a serious effort to keep that specific tradition alive and well. People allocate their time outside of working at the post office to come in and help sort all that out. And again, we have children. The postal workers themselves are affected, just like every Canadian in this situation. Nobody wants a strike. Nobody wanted. This was over a year in the making. Every single contract that has expired has taken a year or two of no movement whatsoever to get to this point. And I may have mentioned it before. That's how the government works. The management doesn't care because once we do use our power, the only power we have is to strike. Government just comes in and legislates us back to work. So management doesn't have to change or do anything. They are willing to sit there and wait for management or for the government of Canada to appoint a mediator and to get it into arbitration and get it all sorted out. So to take away the one serious power that a union has is to strike. That's if you really want to be honest about it, what leaves a bad taste in my mouth is, and every year that we've had a strike, it's been the same way. There's no good faith. There is no going back and forth in good faith that we will get to an understanding where this contract will be resolved prior to a strike. It's it's always come down right to it's been a year we've been working on it and no progress. And now we're forced to strike. And everyone's like, oh, you're just striking at Christmas? That's not what we wanted to do. No one ever wanted to disrupt any of that.
So what are your colleagues saying, your fellow people who are on strike? How is everyone feeling? What are they thinking?
Well, the diehard 25-year people like myself, this is just par for the course. It seems to happen every contract or every second contract. So we are always committed to staying on the line no matter how long it takes, because that's the only power we have. And wages are so low, the cost of everything is so high that other unions are getting things settled. I saw something where one of the other unions decided, or one of the other companies decided that they would eliminate some of their bonuses for the management and sort of spread that money around to see if we can't come to an agreement. Not that it's like a COLA payment or something like that, but at least in good faith, trying to figure out how we can bridge this gap.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not happening at the post office. Management is entrenched. The problem is we need the absolute flushing of all of that, right from the head right down. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
What company loses millions of dollars and then goes ahead and gives their corporation CEOs bonuses, giant bonuses. That's insane.
It's insane. It's like the CBC. The
Like they're
CBC
talking
makes
out of
no
both
money.
sides of their mouth.
That's right. The CBC makes no money. They get all these government grants, but their CEOs get their bloody bonuses.
That's right.
It's
Well,
so disrespectful for to do to the public as a crown corporation. So
I mean, I feel like we're solid. I feel like even though it's gone on for 3 weeks and this is just ridiculous, it should be sitting down. Let's sort this out. We all want this to be sorted out. We are, as far as I'm concerned, and the people that I know, we are strong. We are on strike, and we're not stopping.
Yeah. Okay. Jamie, that was wonderful. I learned a lot in this conversation. When we get a result, we could do an update or something.
Absolutely. I'll take some notes next time so I'm not so scatterbrained. There's just so much
I
to
was
talk.
too, because I forgot kind of what I was going to say. But before I leave, anything you'd like the public to know?
Well, I for sure want, if they see me talking right now, I for sure want them to know that I am not a disgruntled postal worker that has it out for management. We are all willing to make this corporation bigger and better than it ever was. The idea that we have a location in every single town, in every little spot in the country is a giant window for opportunity. Everywhere there's a post office, there should be a banking system. Everywhere there's a post office, everybody goes to the post office. There's a postal building in every town. That should entrench us with building this corporation even greater than it is if it wasn't mismanaged so terribly.
Okay, there's something to think about. Something to think about. Jamie Stroud, thank you so much. Thank you,
Anita. Anytime.
Okay, great.